Hi, my name is Nick Walter, and I'll be doing a presentation on the Kent State Massacre. Context. Among students, there had been a growing resentment towards the Vietnam War, which Nixon had made a promise to bring the U.S. out of. However, following his election in 1968, on April 30th, 1970, he announced his invasion of Cambodia, only widening the war in the eyes of Americans. May 1st. This led to nationwide riots the following day, which were initially peaceful but slowly became more radical with bonfires, police cars getting bottles thrown at, broken store windows, etc. This mob was finally suppressed with the tear gas and the forceful closing of local bars. May 2nd. Mayor Satcham of Ohio requested the National Guard to come in hopes of suppressing the riots. With the arrival of the Guard, a wooden ROTC building burned to the ground with demonstrators in the thousands surrounding the building. Confrontations went into the night, filling the campus with tear gas and the arrest of many demonstrators. May 3rd. The governor of Ohio, James Rhodes, issued statements regarding the protests, calling the students the worst kind of people, and claiming to suppress them with a court order and the law. At this point, nearly 1,000 National Guards occupied the campus where there once stood a peaceful protest. May 4th, 1970. The rally of May 4th was initially banned by university officials, but disregarded by the students, who disobeyed officers and protested against their decision. General Canterbury ordered that the soldiers remained armed and fired tear gas at students in an attempt to disperse the rally. The officers then marched up a steep hill known as Blanket Hill, moving away from the mob. When they reached the top of the hill, 28 officers turned around and fired at the students standing in the Prentice Hall parking lot. The students mercilessly killed being Jeffrey Miller, Allison Cross, William Schroeder, and Sandra Schuer, were all 270 to 390 feet away from the officers, which is around the distance of a football fields away. Another 9 students were also injured from the shootings. Some of the victims of the shootings were also not a part of the protest, but rather walking to class. Mary Vecchio and John Philo. Mary Vecchio can be seen kneeling over the dead body of Jeffrey Miller, showing the despair of the event. This image was captured by John Philo and served to be a staple for what occurred on May 4th, 1970, and for the anti-war movement in general during this time period. Aftermath. Following the shooting, the guards fled the scene into commons to fend from the mob, who grew even further enraged by the shootings. However, faculty marshals successfully convinced students into not pursuing the officers, potentially avoiding another mass shooting. This eventually led to the temporary closing of the university, but the country saw many other universities nationwide participate in protests known as the Student Strike of 1970 following the event in response to the shootings in states including Arizona, Wisconsin, Nebraska, etc. In 1970, 24 students and 1 faculty member, which were known as the Kent 25, were charged for connections to the rally and the burning of the ROTC building and dismissing all the officers in act of self-defense. In 1973, the U.S. Justice Department reopened the case and charged 8 of the officers with violating the civil rights of the students. However, in 1974, the 8 were then acquitted of their actions for failing to prove the guardsmen's willful intent to deprive the students of their civil rights. In 1975, a federal court jury decided that the students had not been victims of willful or wanton misconduct or of the negligence of the officers, but got overturned in an appeals court 2 years later. In 1979, however, an out-of-court settlement was reached, awarding $675,000 to the plaintiffs. Impact. Many songs, poems, art pieces, articles, etc. were made in remembrance of the event. The most famous being the song Ohio by CSN&Y, who rushed to produce the song in reaction to the shootings, marking one of America's most dark times in history. Every year since 1971, the anniversary of the event had been commemorated with a solemn lit candle at Victory Bell and a ceremony held at the time of the shootings. There have also been built memorials for the lives lost within the campus. In 1971, the university established the Center of Peaceful Change, offering a degree in peace and conflict studies following the shooting. The federal government in 2017 has now recognized Kent State as a National Historic Landmark. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you learned something new today.